wonder if that was planned.
That was all coordinated today.
Yeah, I think so.
I think the contacts that they brought in for me.
Special
I think that's the starting point why you are the
Yeah.
spokesperson for the brand.
Yeah, maybe.
Right.
Don't hide these though, okay?
Oh no, I'm sure you've
They're
had
not even
a
in
long
shorthand, you'll
afternoon.
find.
So I read you studied marine biology
Yeah.
in college.
Yeah.
And did you go into acting while you were still in college, or how did you transition?
It
from
found
that?
me because I did it when I was a little kid, huh?
Okay.
So I was a little kid. My mom was hot when she was younger. My mom was a model, and so she got married at 18, had me at 20, and her agent wanted her to start going out again.
Okay.
And she pressed my mom to bring me in as well. So I started doing stuff when I was a little kid. And then I did it through junior high, like elementary school and all that. But junior high, I was like, I just wanted to play sports and all that stuff. But at that point, I'd been around enough to where this guy remembered me. Here I was doing the college thing. And my friends were graduating with different degrees because I chose to go the community college route because there was just more freedom. You know, I'm a transient, right? So, you know, one semester here, one semester there, and kind of figured things out. Besides, my parents were rich and just putting me through university like all my friends went. So, at least that was my mentality at the time. And so, just being around for a while, trying to figure out what was going on. My friends were graduating with different degrees, and they had amassed huge student loans. And it terrified me because I just started university level, and I was like, oh no, that means I can grow up. And so I wanted to take some time off and just kind of reassess everything to make sure I was heading in the direction that I wanted to. And this casting director remembered me from when I was a little kid, and he managed to track me down. Now this time I was living on a friend's couch in San Clemente, and I was bussing tables at a restaurant. And so this guy retrieves me, calls me into town. They wanted like a 1960s throwback character for this television show called Touched by an Angel. The casting director was this guy, David Giella. So I went in and I read, and I got the part. I went and worked for 4 days, came home, and he was like, scouting report came back really well. He's like, what are you doing right now? I said, I'm just trying to figure out what I'm doing. And he said, well, while you're figuring that out, he's like, if you were to audition, I think you would work all the time. And I didn't know like how real that was, but I auditioned, I got Pleasantville. I was excited because I was able to pay off some of the money that was against me now with my credit cards and all that stuff. And then I thought that would be it, and then that turned into another one, which turned into another one, and I thought, okay, cool, now I'm gonna be able to go back to college. That was always the plan. It was a means to an end, right? Go back and finish school.
Right.
Well, then I found out I was gonna have a kid. So I was like, oh great, I guess school's off, but the good thing was that I was working, at least I was making money, and I knew I was gonna be able to provide. And I wouldn't have to work at UPS anymore, because in between jobs, I wasn't making that much of it.
So you were working
at UPS.
Did you get recognized as you were making the deliveries?
No, because no.
It was
if you're delivering, like you're somebody. Like that's
oh, okay.
you aspire to be delivering.
So what is the mailroom equivalent?
No,
at
you know,
UPS?
you work. Well, I was working San Fernando Bell, okay, and I was working 2-day air, which was like, if you're working 2-day air, that means you know what you're doing. You know, like you can pack a truck to maximum density. Right? And so I was doing that, and there was a point where I was like, well, you know, whatever, maybe go back to school. Being a UPS driver wouldn't be bad if you had a good route, because I had friends that were doing it, or knew guys that were doing it, and those are the guys that got the routes in small beach communities, and their routes are relatively small. They'd make their deliveries, because if you race through it as a UPS driver, you get off earlier. Right?
Exactly.
But don't speed, you know what I mean? And so I was like, well, how bad would that be? I mean, if you're living in a small town like, say, San Clemente, right, for instance, which is where I was at, I was like, I could have my route, be done at 3 o'clock, be surfing before sundown and catching glass up. I mean, that was my mentality at the time. And so, you know, found out I was going to be a kid. That was big. I was going to have a kid. That was huge. That was the life changer for me. And all of a sudden then, it wasn't a question. It was what I needed to do. And it was funny because from job to job, I was afraid. Before I was like, oh, if it's my last one, who cares? Now all of a sudden it was like, this is my last job. This is going to be hard because I don't have a degree. I don't have anything behind me. You know, I came up on the short term. Hopefully this will continue out. So as soon as I figured out a game plan, and I did in my mind, I was like, I set aside the just in case one, which was like, okay, cool, I know I'm covered. I can go back to school. I can cover fatherhood, make sure my daughter's taken care of, and have time to go and figure that all out. And I just haven't had to tap that yet. So like, I just turned 38, and I'm like going, I never had to go back to school, but I still want to go back. That's the point. So, you know, I dedicated, really committed myself for the first time. just before my 38th birthday. So I'm just going to go bananas for the next 2 years. And then my 40s, I'll have the flexibility to do whatever I want to do. So we'll see whether it's stay in this or finally go back to school and finish up. We'll see. But I think 40s are going to be cool. I'm excited.
But you just got to experience a bit of it with the National Geographic series.
Yeah.
How
well,
did
it's funny
that
because
come about?
that wasn't a series, right?
No?
No, well, it turned into one.
Oh, okay.
You know,
I was like, I thought it was.
Yeah, so it's the marine biofix, right?
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out ways where I can have my cake and eat it too.
Yeah.
So I start working with this group called the Billfish Foundation, and we're going out and we're catching these giant billfish and we're reeling them in, and we can feel good about it because as opposed to just catching them and killing them, right?
Yeah.
We're bringing them on board. We're taking a little sample of their, pectoral fin or their dorsal fin for a DNA sample. We're drawing blood and we're putting a bunch of equipment on them.
Yeah.
Satellite tags, pet tags, all this stuff, and then we release them. So we can monitor their numbers. They're a great species to study because they're an apex predator. They sit at the top of the food chain, and unlike schooling fish, you can actually see them basking. So it's easy to kind of get an idea of numbers. So I'm working and I'm doing that, and they're like, oh, we want you on the board of the foundation and all that. Well, I meet this guy, Chris Fisher. We're like-minded guys. He's on the board as well. His dad invented the soda dispenser.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, but he's a doer. Okay, so he goes off. He studies international business in Singapore. I mean, the guy, he's made something of himself, and I dig the guy. So, anyways, he has this idea because we've been doing this with billfish. Coincidentally enough, another guy on the board is this guy, Michael Dolmeyer. He's a doctor. He's just an amazing marine biologist. One of the leaders in elephant seals and also great white sharks. And so he looks at Chris's ship, and we come up with this whole idea of, hey, maybe we can get great white sharks on this platform. So it started off as kind of like a dare and kind of a challenge. Chris has a production company because of all of Daddy's soda pop money, and he's done really well with fishing shows. So he's a world-class angler on ESPN2. He's won Emmys and he's done all this stuff. And so he's like, I got the camera crew. If we're gonna go into templates, let's just bring the camera crew out there. So we bring the camera crew out there. We got permits from the Mexican government to catch 6 great white sharks off of Guadalupe Island. We never gonna catch anything. Like nobody even made a fish hook that was substantial enough to catch these sharks. So we literally took what was a decorative, like ornamental shark that Mustad made. These guys would hang it in the back of bars, like, in fishing towns, like, oh, it's a great white shark hook. But it wasn't even forged, it was just pressed metal. So we're like forging these hooks, trying to get the metallurgy up so it can withstand catching one of these sharks. Not sure if it's going to or not. They're bending them straight and all that. When we managed to get some, and we come back with the footage and show Nat Geo and show Discovery Channel, they're like, look, we won it. Yeah. That's how it happened. So it's funny because it's like Nat Geo's like, oh, we got Shark Man. It just went to the highest bidder, And Chris is floating. I'm happy for him because he rolled big.
Yeah.
It was a major endeavor, and they're still going. They're going strong. And I've been working more with Michael Dolmeyer, who was the scientist in season 1. We got along really well. So.
Is there a potential second season or maybe?
Well, they did a second season. To be honest with you, I haven't spoken with Chris in a while. We were missing each other, and he's so busy with it. And they wanted to get me out on the boat again, and I was coming down actually with Jesse, and I called up my friend who's here, and I called up Chris just to find out what was going on with the show because I wanted to get back out there on the boat again. But
was it ever terrifying? Did you have any of those?
I'm going to say no, and I don't want you to think I'm not being a cool guy when I say this, all right?
Okay.
But the thing of it is, it's like you hook into one of these sharks, and they're probably 15, 20 years old, right? And so you're like, the size isn't. It's like, wow, that thing's big, and you're hoping you're going to catch the mother of all mothers, right? The idea is 20 feet. Because they're out there and people speculate, oh, maybe that one's 20 foot, but the water magnifies the size of the shark. And so we're guesstimating. We caught 18, 18.6, close to 19 foot, but nobody's caught a 20 footer. First off, we've set and broken the record for largest fish ever caught and released 4 times, right? So people kill 20 footers, but the challenge isn't catching the shark. It's catching the shark and making sure it swims away. You can catch them all day long and kill them dead, right? So we're like, we don't want to kill this thing. No. So that's what you're amped up on. It's not the adrenaline to actually catching it. It's like, let's get this thing out of here. Let's do what we got to do for science. Let's take the blood. Let's tag it. Let's do all those things. Let's not forget why we're here. And let's get that thing off and make sure it swims away. Because if it dies on us, we're all bummed out.
Yeah.
Because this thing's far more awesome than any one of us.
Yeah.
That's the like-minded kind of mentality we all have. And where am I going with this whole thing? Oh yeah, yeah.
That's
So
so
it's not until
scary.
it swims
Yeah.
away at the end, you look back and you go, like, that thing was huge, like, you know? Like, there was one that we caught, and I called her the giant toad, and I think her name was Kimberly. And she was so big, like, I'm a pretty tall guy, and we gotta figure out how to open this shark's mouth to get the hook out of it. And the shark is so massive, right? And the head is so big and it's so powerful. The only thing I could do is like put a foot on either side of it and grab it by its nose and open its mouth, right? The thing was so big, I was on my tiptoes and can barely get around enough to get leverage to open the thing's mouth. That's how big they are.
Wow.
So, you know,
I can't think of
you
anything
do
more
that.
terrifying, honestly.
It's awesome. So in the middle of it, it's like, yeah, you're cognizant, you're aware, but you go, wow, this thing's really big, you know? And Brett's like half reaching his arm, like almost, and they're grabbing the snorkel out. And I'm like, oh, that's crazy. I better not let go. You know? Like, oh, the things are going, do you really trust me right now? And I'm not letting go. There's just no way. And yeah, it swims away at the end of it, and you just, there's so many little things that come together. And the longest we've had one out of the water was just over 18 minutes. So, you know, we're taking kind of educated kind of guesses because the biologists that are on the boat. Like, how long can this thing survive out of water? Even though we're pumping water over its gills to make sure that it remains oxygenated, we don't really know. Nobody's ever done this before. So we're like, well, we've done 18 minutes and 20 seconds. So if it's in the water before 18 minutes and 20 seconds, we're good. But when you get down to like 16 minutes, 17 minutes, and you got that 18, 20 ticking in the back of your mind, and you're looking down at your wristwatch and someone's counting it out, the last thing you're thinking about is that shark getting you, or like, oh no, you're like, let's get it off the platform.
Right.
Like I said, when that thing swims away, you're like, that was crazy. It's so much fun. But yeah, it's definitely an addiction.
I can imagine. Adrenaline.
It's cool. It's cool, and it's so humbling, you know. Because the thing of it is, it's like, you know, they have this. You know, you look at the great white shark. You look in its eye, especially, you know, it's out of land.
I've never had the pleasure.
No.
You know, when you watch Jaws, right? It's just a big, black, ominous eye. You're like, that thing is pure death.
Yeah.
They are. They're eating machines. I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah.
They don't care. They're
No.
opportunistic. People go, oh, it was Miss ID, that's why he let me go. A
No.
great white shark is a smart shark, because unlike a tiger shark, great white shark, he hits you, he puts one mortal wound on you because he knows it's mortal, and then sits back and waits for his prey to bleed out before he eats him. So when people make it to shore, they go, oh, it was mistaken identity. It's like, no, dude, you just didn't bleed out fast enough for him to finish you off, you know? But you get up there and you look in this ominous eye and how spooky they are, and I'm like, I'm terrified of this.
Because there's no like pupils or anything. It's just literally jet black.
Yeah. You can't see into their soul.
Yeah. You know what? But the thing of it is, it's like you get up there with it, and you're like, yeah, make no mistake, this guy's just a stone cold killing, eating machine. I mean, during gestation period, there may be as many as 2 or 3 babies in the womb. They eat one another. The strongest survives. That's the life of a great white shark, right? Just to put it in perspective. They eat their brothers and sisters in the womb, right? So you get up close to it, and it's like, yeah, I'm definitely afraid of these things. They're gnarly, they're definitely scary, they're eating machines, but you know what? They are so pure in their purpose, and that's the respect that comes.
Yeah.
And so it's like, with the respect, the fear almost dissipates, right? Almost.
Almost, yeah. Like, I don't think mine would be going anywhere. Not anytime fast.
They're awesome animals.
So to change gears a little bit, you have a non-profit.
Yeah.
I was reading about. How did that come about?
My good friend, really. Because it was just an idea that I had a couple of times, and I travel a lot of third world countries. I spent a lot of time in Indonesia and Central America, and you just fall in love with the people. Indonesia's cursed, is where they're at. They're on fault lines, they have earthquakes, tsunamis, it seems like all the time. And so I was there not too long ago, and I saw another earthquake, and I was like, oh gosh, this is sucks. These people always get slammed. And I started getting angry. I started getting emotional because you think about the friends and the people that you met. My buddy's with me, and I'm like, wow, every time I see this, it's like my heart goes out, and I just want to be there. And he's like, hey, why don't you just start going? I was like, you pay for it. Why don't you go and listen to stuff and go help out? And I was going, yeah, that'd be cool. Talk is cheap, right?
Yeah.
Well, that same friend, Haiti, happened. He's here today, actually. He called me up, and he's like, I'm gonna give you the guy talk. He's like, yo, pussy. He's like, you going? I'm like, going where? He's like, Haiti. You know, and then some other profanity, some other words follow. You know? And he's like, oh, look, man. He's like, if you go, I'll go with you. That's pretty cool. So we had no idea what we were getting into. Made some phone calls because I have friends that are firefighters and paramedics, and we just went for it. So it was 5 friends, and we went in. And the whole thing was, let's just not become liability. Let's go in completely self-sufficient. So we went in with 5 gallons of water each on our back,
Wow.
you know, and then we each had 2 duffel bags. My mother's a nurse, had all these pharmaceuticals and stuff that I shouldn't have had. My mom was awesome. And so we were able to go in and we found this orphanage. We went in and we dumped a bunch of stuff, and you know, next thing I know, I'm running to Port-au-Prince, and I commandeered a car, and I run out onto the tarmac where Airborne is, and they have all these, you know, the infamous bottleneck. All these supplies are sitting on the tarmac. Nobody could even get there to retrieve them. And so when I came in, I saw all this stuff. We're hanging out at the UN. I'm watching, what's his face? Who's the guy? Anderson Cooper.
Yeah.
Posture like he's like in the thick of it all. When the UN's right across the street, he's standing on a rubble pile. Like he's like the most gnarly. He's such a poser. Anyways, I saw. He's an actor. So, anyways, a graffiti behind him and everything. It looked really good. It was disgusting. Anyways, sorry, Anderson Cooper. I love you. I think you're great. But so anyways, I get in there and I drive out onto the tarmac and I get guys coming after me. You know, what are you doing just from the tarmac? I'm like, yo, I jump out of the car. This guy Hastings, awesome brother. And he's from New Orleans. He's like, what are you doing? He goes, holy shit, man, what are you doing? I'm like, yo, I gotta get some stuff. We're at this orphanage. We need some like baby formula. We need some extension cords because we got generators and we can't run power. He's like, hold on 1 second. He's like, yo, you aren't gonna believe what's here right now. Like, who's that? Like that dude, Paul Walker. He's like, who the hell's that? He's like, the guy from Fast and Furious. So Vin Diesel. He's like, no, the white Vin. So next thing I know, this guy comes running out and he's like going, boom, boom, boom. They just start raping the runway and giving us everything they can. And I got back and I was like, oh, that was easy. You know, we were there for 4 or 5 days.
Yeah.
Where we set up a field hospital adjacent to this orphanage. When we got there was only 47 people. The time we left, me, my 4 friends, and 2 doctors, there was just under 400 people.
Wow.
All laid out in field hospitals. They let us take a bunch of tents. I went back, we set up all these field tents and everything. So, you know, we went there not wanting to be liabilities, hoping that we can make a difference. My buddy called me up, we put it into action, and it worked. And so we were like, now we're empowered, right? So it's still just an idea with some like-minded friends. Chile happened within a couple months. It was like, round 2, here we go. We went, the group got bigger. We have a doctor now, a medical doctor, because of our experiences there in Haiti. We managed to poach 1 or 2. And then we ended up going to Indonesia, and then next thing I know, my accountant, everyone's like, look, if you're gonna be doing this, you should just like make it work, make it real, and maybe we can raise some money to keep it going. And yeah, it's swelling. We did Tuscaloosa this year. This year's been sleepy, which has been awesome, because last year, it seemed like every 3 months there was something. Last year was bad.
Yeah.
Last year was really bad, so I almost wish I shouldn't have said that.
Yeah, I know.
But no, it's awesome. It's my favorite thing to do. I love it so much, and the talent pool that we have now is just incredible, because it's like a contagion. You know? We put it out there, people are like, oh, it's just an opportunity. Because firefighters and stuff here, all those guys, especially paramedics, those guys are like grunts. You gotta have them in an environment like that. You go with just a bunch of doctors, you know, not to knock doctors, but they don't want to like,
you can't get down and dirty.
You need to have that balance, and I think that's where we're unique, because we go in with guys that are willing to like hump loads and like carry stuff out. Urban search and rescue, so they know shoring, they know how to jack stuff up to extract people from fallen debris. A doctor can't do that. They know how to deal with crush damage on the immediate, and then you can pass them over, especially the paramedics, because they know the doctor lingo, which is good. EMT doesn't know it. Paramedic can actually communicate directly with the doctor, so it's nice having those, especially when we're triaging and setting different things up. And so it's going really well. It's fun.
Do you think there's anything 3 of us can do? I know we're wearing skirts. And
I have 120 fashion bloggers in Los Angeles. I'm sure we can get down and dirty.
Now the thing is, if people want to go, you have to have a minimum of EMT certification. That was a cool challenge for people.
Yeah.
Because in 3 weeks, you can have it at UCLA. They have an impacted course. It's 5 days a week. It's 8 hours a day and 1 Saturday. So in total, it's 16 days. But it's cool. Not 16 days, excuse me. What would that be? 22 days.
Okay.
22 days of school, something like that.
Cool.
But anyway, don't get too excited.
That's alright. It was okay. We didn't ask any Davidoff questions. Sorry.
You didn't?
Yay, Davidoff! At the end.
Well, no, we did in the beginning. I made a commentary about how his blue eyes.
Blue eyes
Maybe
are
one
Davidoff
last
blue.
question about Davidoff.
Okay, cool.
So we saw, the commercial, the amazing commercial you made for Davidoff right before this interview. Did you do all of your own stunts? I saw you were
No,
diving.
my dad sucked. My double, actually, the guy that doubled me forever is so funny because we went to high school together. Our mothers went to high school together.
Wow.
Right? So, like, we grew up, our mothers changing our diapers side by side. In kindergarten, he wrote a paper. His very first paper was like a paragraph. When I grew up, I wanted to be a stuntman. Awesome, right? So now he's a kick-ass stuntman. We get there, we gotta do this thing. He's like, oh man, he's like, I can't believe it. He's like, because he and his wife just had a baby together. He's like, they really want me to come out for you. And I'm like, I guess. He's like, well, what kind of stunts are you gonna be doing? I'm like, oh, just driving and stuff. He's like, well, you do the driving stuff better than I do. I'm like, yeah, sometimes. But anyways, I'm being humble. We're kind of messing with each other a little bit. We get out there. He's like, yeah, I guess it's some big dive that they want you to do. And I'm like, well, how big? And he's like, I don't know, maybe like 60 feet swan dive. And I'm like, well, dude, I've never done it from 60 feet. I've jumped from 60 feet, but a swan dive. So he gets out there and he practices a little bit. He goes, it's so funny because all the local guys that saw him do it, they thought he was a professional diver. His dive came out. It looked good. So he only did it twice. And he's like, yeah, man. He's like, it came out really good. I'm like, how good? And he's like, check it out on the iPhone. Tony got it. That's his wife. I'm like, yeah, that was sick. That should make me look at it. So, mine was not good. Let's just say that.
Okay. Cool.